Hello and welcome to episode number 187, where I'm continuing my conversation with Kundalini Yoga teacher Joe Rich and Ayurvedic Doctor Victor Briere at the Center for Applied Consciousness in California. We are continuing our discussion about the masculine and feminine and male versus female in this episode. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. I will also discuss topics like yoga, which is the sister science of Ayurveda, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, and mindfulness practices, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to help you to connect to each other. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend that you start by listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Now, if you like the content, please subscribe to the show so the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. I've also set up a new private community away from social media on my new website, Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Now, this community provides a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, and to support each other. And I have many other perks in this community as well, so check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab in the menu. I hope you can join us. I'm looking forward to a lot more in-depth connection and conversation over there. And now, here's the show. Hello, and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I am happy again to be joined in person by Joe Rich and Ayurvedic Doctor Victor Briere. Say hello.
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 So I'm here in person at the Center for Applied Consciousness with Joe, who's the owner and founder of the center and a Kundalini Yoga teacher for over 20 years.
Yeah, 22 years.
Wow. And you're familiar with Ayurvedic Dr. Victor Briere. We've done a lot of podcast episodes together. And in our previous episode with Joe and Victor, which was episode number 186, we talked about ending the duality of the masculine and feminine. And we want to kind of continue that discussion today, talking about the masculine and feminine energies. And we want to talk about the difference of masculine and feminine energy versus the cultural norms we put on male and female. So this is an important discussion because we all have this preconceived notion of male, female, and then that comes into our minds when we think of the masculine and feminine, I think. So Victor, I'd like to start with you. Let's go back to the very beginning. Creation.
We're talking the very beginning.
And so what are the roles of the energies of the masculine and feminine in creation? Because that's the foundation. You can't get more foundational than that.
Yeah, and, without getting biblical at all, this is what Ayurveda has to say about it. Ayurveda has a really clear, concise definition, I guess you could say, or explanation of how this all came to be. And they talk about basically the Ayurvedic sages of old talk about there's a masculine principle and there's a feminine principle. And in Sanskrit, those are Peruse, which is the masculine principle, and Prakriti, which many of us have heard on this podcast, which is the feminine principle. That is semi-analogous to the yin-yang concept in traditional Chinese medicine. And it's the first step in the play of Leela, which is the creation. From God's perspective, or the One's perspective, or the Great Spirit, or whatever you want to call it. But the oneness takes its first step in manifesting creation by creating Purusha and Prakriti. That's the first duality, the first polarity. And then all other dualities and polarities come from that. So when we're dealing with Ayurvedic medicine or whatever, life, anything, we talk, the masculine feminine polarity is extremely important because it's fundamental. And so you can't really get to the bottom of things unless you're going to take that duality into the account. Beyond that polarity, you're into the whole oneness thing. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a separate conversation.
Right.
Right. So, okay, what are the qualities of Purush and what are the qualities of Prakriti?
Right.
And why is it so important? Purush is pure potential, complete unmanifest potential, perfect awareness, and some people would say consciousness. I would shy away from saying consciousness. I would say it's that spark of awareness or the ability to experience the manifest world as a complete potential. So it's a seed, right? The seed
potential.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then you have, that's masculine. Then you have feminine, Prakriti, and that is everything that is actualized or manifest in the universe without exception. The 5 elements, all of it. So the basic fabric of the universe. So what I like to tell people when I'm teaching this in Ayurveda courses is my male body, not masculine, my male body is in a feminine universe. My male body is completely ruled by Prakriti, which is feminine. If it exists, if you can touch it, if you can see it, if you can smell it, it's Prakriti. But my capacity to experience all this, which some people would call the soul, again, I would shy away from using that word. My awareness or my ability to attend to things or have attention is Purush.
Okay.
So every human, or every creature, whether it's male or female in gender, contains both Purush and Prakriti in essence. And how that happens, in at least the Ayurvedic philosophy, is Purush, in its unmanifest pure potential, impregnates, quote unquote, penetrates a form, which is Prakriti, animating it and giving it life. So when Shiva and Shakti come together, they dance.
Right.
And that's the mythology behind the creation of Purush and Prakriti. And so it takes both to create. It takes the merging of that basic polarity to manifest anything that we experience in our universe. And then all manifestation comes from there, from those two principles combining together.
Beautiful. So Prakriti is receptive.
Prakriti is receptive to Purush, and that defines Purush in a form. So the way Purush becomes manifest as an actualization or becomes concrete is only with Prakriti. If you don't have Prakriti, you don't give birth to anything concrete.
Okay, so Prakriti contains Purush in a form.
Exactly.
Okay.
And without Purush, Prakriti is just stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about how every man and woman has the masculine and feminine via the Ida Pingala?
Yeah, so great question. So male, female, doesn't matter what species, doesn't matter, or even non-gendered living beings contain both Purush and Prakriti because it requires, Purush and Prakriti are always involved in the creation dance. So, but let's just take a human being because that's what we are. I have a certain yogic anatomy, and in yogic anatomy you have Ida, which is the feminine channel, primary feminine channel in the body, and the Pingala, which is the primary masculine channel in the body. And they crisscross going up the Shushmana, which is the central channel of the primary central channel of the body. And everywhere the Shushmana crosses with the Ida and Pingala, you get a chakra.
Yes.
Which is like a hub,
an
energetic hub. And the nature of those channels is a little bit different, and Joe can talk about this too because he's got tons of experience with them. But Prakriti and Purush play out their qualities, I guess you could say, through these channels.
Okay.
And in the human form, we're that microcosm reflecting the macrocosm, or if you even want to call it, if you even want to talk about it like that. But we we express these qualities through these channels and through these chakras. And so if you notice, our big energetic vortexes, or whatever you want to call them, is when Purusha and Prakriti unite. That's when we get the huge, massive output of energy, or the huge thing where people, everyone's obsessed with being stuck in a certain chakra. But let's not forget about the inherent power that they're supposed to give the human being to manifest a life on this planet. That's what they're there for. It's only stuck if there's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's when those two polarities merge that you get your power. That you get your energy, and that in the context of Ayurveda, you get your healing. So a lot of people have problems with mental problems with either Purusha or Prakriti. They shun one and they accept the other, or they shun both or whatnot, because they mistakenly identify Purusha and Prakriti with male and female. But that has very little to do with Purusha and Prakriti. Male and female are both all in the realm of Prakriti. It's a form.
Right.
Yeah. And so there isn't even a masculine-feminine conflict there. But we like to pretend there is because of all these, all our reasons.
Yeah.
All our excuses, yeah.
Right. So Prakriti contains the male and female energy, and it can manifest in whatever form or whatever qualities emerge from that seed potential.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Meaning that we shouldn't have these cultural norms of male and female, because we're boxing people in to a certain cultural norm where there may be much more potential. Unlimited potential. So Joe, can you talk just a little bit about that? How does this cultural norm of male and female affect ourselves? And then let's talk about how it affects relationships.
Well, the first thing we have to do is do a little self-examination here. I would invite everybody to kind of do that. It's why do you want to hold on to this misplaced belief that there is separation? There's something that is serving in you to think that you are different. If you're a woman, that there is a fundamental difference between you and me, being a male. And what is that serving in your psyche? And psyche meaning is a Greek word for soul. So what is it you're maintaining? What is it you're trying to maintain by staying separate rather than the merger or the connection? Because we're all meant to connect. We're all meant to merge. So what is it that you are doing when you say, I don't want to merge because this person is different than I am? Because that question now you could take to every issue we have in society. Why do I not want to merge? Because somebody's skin color is different than mine. Why do I not want to merge? Because somebody's richer or poorer than I am. And age difference. Yet, we all like to sit around and talk about reincarnation and how we've all lived many lives, and yet somebody can be 40 years old and somebody can be 60 years old, and it's just a mere 20 years different, but we make a big deal out of it when there could be tens of thousands of years into your soul's age. So why? Why do we keep doing this? If I could get people to self-reflect on that, that would really be great, because I don't want to be separate from you. I suffer diseases because we maintain separation. It's a really big deal. It's killing us. It's killing our environment. If we don't change, this environment's going down, and every innocent creature is going down with it. And they didn't do anything. So we need to start grappling with what is it we're trying to protect in us, and what are we trying to hold on to by saying that you are different than me. Because genetically, there's almost no difference. I mean, it's so minuscule, it's unbelievable. As far as race goes, I don't think there's any. They've proven there's no difference.
No difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Aside from the color, a skin color, an outer layer.
Yeah.
Difference.
Yeah. So, but here we are, we think of all the laws, think of all the things we do based on those assumptions, or that agreed upon social norm that we are separate. And in fact, I would even suspect this, and this is very personal. I'm going to play with Colette here a little bit because she's incredible. If I were to meet Colette and insist, argumentatively, that there's absolutely no difference between us and that blah, 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 I think she probably would be offended by my assertions. And yet it's true. And so what do we give up? We give up our authentic selves. Because how can I be my authentic self if I can't speak truth to you? If I speak truth to you and you reject me because you didn't want to hear that truth, you wanted me to just say something nice instead of honest, then you reject me, and here we go with the dance of separation, which leads to disconnection and disengagement. We are off to the races, guys, and we are looking at war. Don't kid yourselves. It's that easy. It's that fast. Once you say, I belong to one country and you belong to another, then there's potential for war because we're in competition for resources. So, I would say do some meditation today on this kind of thought and put on John Lennon's Imagine song and really try to get into what he is really trying to convey with that song, because if we don't step over this line, if we can't get past this, if we can't stop seeing each other as different, then we are condemned to our death because of the environment. It's our only hope.
Thank you for that. And it's so true, isn't it, that we have such a competitiveness in our culture, the fear of there's a limited amount of resources. And so that brings that combative energy between us. So when we're reflecting on this today, and I think our journey always has to start with ourselves, right, before we go out and start looking at our relationships and our wider community. So when we're looking at ourselves today, and going back to our, true nature and not conforming to those cultural norms of, I am a woman and this is the role I need to play, because then I'm limiting my potential. I'm limiting my true nature. Victor, can you talk a little bit about that? What happens in that case if I'm playing the role of a woman, but feeling very different inside and feeling like that there's something more, but I'm afraid to access that or to bring that into the world because I need to conform or stay in my box. Maybe my own fear, but also not wanting to make others feel uncomfortable or agitate others.
Yeah, so there is a physiological consequence to every thought we have, be it positive or negative. And I don't think people sit with the gravity of that. Even though it's told time and time again in so many spiritual traditions. It's like, if you think negative thoughts, then it's, going to create a toxicity. We use those words that have become generalized and watered down, but they're not watered down. They have meaning behind them. And so we have to take that seriously. It's like, okay, so if I'm sitting here and I am actively suppressing something I believe in order to fit into a cultural box, a familial box, a whatever box, for the gains that I want, right? Let's be honest about it. Right. I get comfort, I get safety, I get whatever it is. And maybe sometimes it's absolutely necessary for survival. So granted, those times exist, but a lot of times they don't. A lot of times it is a choice because it's simply scary to do otherwise. Yeah. And I would have to face the unknown. That is going to have a physiological consequence in my body, in your body. And do not kid yourself. That is one of the primary causes of disease. Why? Because I'm going to shut off either Ida or Pingala. Right. Which means I will not activate my Shushmana, my central channel. And what does that mean in the context of this talk? I've rejected, at least temporarily, either Purush or Prakruti, of which I am both. So to identify as a gender in my core, especially with all the cultural baggage, is going to start the long, slow process of creating the imbalance in the doshas, Agni, and Dhatus. So it really has such an impact on our health. Not only our happiness, of course, because we're not developing our true nature. We're not bringing our true qualities into the world.
and that's our goal, right? Is to bring our qualities, our true nature into the world and have that manifest.
Yeah, because then we're really using Peruse properly, because Peruse is the realm of unmanifest potential. It's infinite. And so we get that experience or the touch of the infinite in the finite. And that's when the Prakriti and Peruse merge. And that's when you get this massive expression of soul or love or whatever,
Yeah.
all the words.
Thinking from a woman's perspective, at the last episode, we talked about women needing to accept nurturing and not being able to do that. I feel we've gone through a decade more of women more in their masculine, especially in regards career. And we can see that play out again and again, that the woman feels that in order to break the glass ceiling or in order to advance in their career, they need to play more of the tough masculine characteristics, bringing that into play so that they succeed. So let's talk a little bit about that.
I think you're right. I think it's sad.
Yeah.
It's like, great, enter the sandbox with us and act just like us. The us of us that are destroying everything because of competition for resources instead of cooperation for resources. We're destroying everything we can put our hands on, and women are going to join in on that.
Right.
You're supposed to save us from that.
Right. So what happens in this case if I'm entering into the corporate world and I'm like, okay, I have to shut down my emotional, the emotional side in these board meetings, in these, in order to advance, I have to be more masculine in my characteristics, or at least very powerful and in my speech and so on. So I have to kind of shut down that feminine side of me. And so how does that play out then?
I'd just like to say that, it's not masculine, it's maleness.
Right.
That's the key, right? I have to shut down my masculine. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You need to engage Peruse more fully. Mm-hmm. Males are not engaging their masculine.
Mm.
Right.
Females are not engaging their masculine. Males are not engaging their feminine. Females are not engaging their feminine.
Mm-hmm.
So all those emotional games and shutdowns have nothing to do with masculine and feminine. It's all male, female, cultural, fear-based games.
Right.
And so a woman stepping into a corporation would do best if she engages her masculine and feminine, not maleness and femaleness.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe the corporation will spit her out. I don't know. I'm not trying to predict that. But I'm saying as a being, she would do her best doing that.
Yeah, because we essentially are more powerful when we're standing in our truth, and energetically more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then only that power has the power to affect those who are just playing the male-female game.
Right. So say I am playing the female playing the male role, and then I'm shutting down that, that softer, the heart, the intuition, the compassion, the empathy.
But that's where all great inventions come from. If Einstein shuts down his intuition and his heart, all we have is scientists.
Exactly.
Doing nothing. Most scientists spend their whole life trying to prove whether Einstein was right or wrong. They don't create anything new.
Mm.
But he was so into his feminine side. He was so into his intuition and his heart that he was able to understand the universe in a much different way than anybody else could. He made some corporation billions of dollars.
Mm.
I mean, you would be wildly successful for a corporation if you would use your intuition versus your rational mind. Your rational mind is limited, very limited. Your intuition is infinite.
Right. And so that's that feminine creative quality.
Yes.
Yeah, the way you'd say it in the Ayurvedic kind of context is that the Peruse, you tap into Peruse to that could be loosely, I guess, equated with the Akashic records, right? Mm-hmm. You tap into the capacity in yourself to touch the infinite unmanifest. And then Prakriti, or the feminine, then delivers that in a way that's real in the world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And so it's feminine, that we call it feminine. But that is not going in and being quote unquote powerful by talking like this in a board meeting and showing no emotion. That has nothing to do with masculine and feminine. That's a whole societal just domination play.
Yeah, that's domination and control.
Right. So let's move into that now, moving out of the boardroom and into the relationships, and where we touched on this the last day too in our last episode together. Let's talk about how this plays out, the cultural norms of male versus and female versus masculine and feminine.
Well, you're our female representative here in this conversation. The male's trained to dominate and control. We're told as little boys that makes us attractive. So who's training us? Our mothers. My father's fairly absent. Come on. He's around and he's an example and we see it, but who's trained him? The mother.
Right.
Every man is acting in a way to get the attention of the female in the house. So, and then the little boy is just totally subject to his mother's training. So why does our mother say to us, you look so handsome when you put on a soldier's outfit? Why do you, my big strong boy, protect me?
Right.
So we're taught to be aggressive. We're taught to be controlling and dominating. We are actually taught that won't, 50 Shades of Grey. I don't like that, but it's not a turn on for me. But there it is, the male dominant, and the woman is turned on by that.
Right.
I think it's really terrible for our culture to see movies like that. And so, when do we want to stop? By agreement here. Because certainly I've got bad habits. Being a male, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I'm not saying I don't have bad habits, but I need, a feminine. I need, maybe even a feminist. Maybe I need a radical feminist around me to get me to understand the subtleties of where I am a sexist and start to eradicate some of these kind of bad habits out of my personality. We need somebody to help catch us, right? Because we got bad habits. But that's not intention. Our intention is to merge. Our intention is to connect. So, I definitely want women around me who speak up and push back, because it's an educational experience for me and it helps me clear out these bad habits that I grew up with. But women can't play passive. It is very threatening. I know. I know. It is very scary to go into the male-dominated world and become your authentic self and take voice and be willing to conflict. I know. I get it all the time. I'm a person who's willing to conflict. But you have to be willing to do that. That's where the truth gets pulled out of things and pulled out of situations. Right. If you just keep being nice, that's not authentic.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to agitate a little.
You need to agitate a lot. Because we have grown up with really bad habits.
Right. Especially female. Being don't rock the boat, smile, be quiet, The
male be aggressive and dominating and controlling and strong and don't cry. Right. Don't show fear. That's a big one, because we're all in fear. Yeah. 100% we're in fear. And yet men are told don't feel fear. So what do? We express anger.
Yes.
And the male is not satisfied after he's expressed anger. I want everybody to remember that. You don't feel good. Right. Because I pointed my anger at you. Yeah. Right? You're ready to leave the relationship. Yeah. Right? You're sick of me. Yeah. Right? But I don't feel any better. When I walk away, it's like, what the heck did I do that for? Right. What did I disconnect for? Why did I eradicate this relationship? Why am I walking away? There's no love now between us. That doesn't get me what I want. But here we are stuck in our patterns because of habits. So what we need is a woman who can stand up to that and go, hey, dude, let me direct your anger back to the original fear that anger represents. Let's get back to fear. It's like, I don't want to admit that I'm afraid. You won't find me sexually attractive. Right. It's like, yes, I will. Go ahead. So you do need to hit us in the head. You do. Yes. We need a lot of help. We're not going to get out of this hole without you helping us. There's no way. We can't, because it is so built into us. And then, of course, going forward into the future, like if you and I would have a kid and we were solid there, maybe we could raise our son better, right?
Right.
We don't have to raise a son now with those kind of energies.
Yeah.
And he'd have a father that's reflecting that, right?
Yeah.
So there's hope for the future.
Right.
But you and I got to get that straight between us and the present.
Right.
And that's going to take you to have a lot of courage, because I've got bad habits, and I represent a lot of men in this world. I represent a lot of guys, and I'm telling you, if women could remember, if you remember this one thing, when he's angry, try to redirect him to what is the fear that's laying underneath that anger. He expresses anger because he thinks he has permission to. And he doesn't think he has permission to express fear. But it's the fear that's driving his behavior, not the anger. He's probably not even angry. So
the fear is different for each man, right? It manifests differently. But is there a fear if, they're mostly raised by the mother, the female, then is there a fear that, I have to live up to this expectation, that I now have to be independent, and maybe feeling a lack of support and not knowing what to do with that?
Yes. All of that. And we feel disconnected because of it. See, that's the thing. The basic fear for every human being is disconnection. That's it. That's what's driving the boat. And what's the disconnection from? Our soul. Not from each other, not just the relationship. And so remember what I said. If I'm in relationship to you, Colette, and I can't show up in my authentic self, I have to pull things back to keep you happy with me.
Right.
Then I can't show up in my soul.
Yes.
I can't show up in my psyche.
Right.
Okay. That's the point. There's a doubling up there.
Yeah.
It shows maybe some therapists might look at our relationship, couples therapists might look at our relationship and go, well, Joe, you've got to show up in your authentic self. And I know you're afraid Colette will leave you. That's not really my fear. My fear is that I'll never connect to my soul's purpose.
Right.
So my life might be happy, but it's not meaningful.
Right.
And our lives should be about finding meaning, not happiness.
Right.
So I don't want to lie to you or be less than completely honest and authentic with you in order to keep us happy.
Right.
I would rather be in a relationship with a person who I can be my total authentic self with, and that keeps us meaningful.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are nights when it's not real comfortable between us because I said something that maybe, or you said something authentic, and I'm not handling it well.
Right.
But that's what we got to agree to not separate at those times.
Yes.
We got to agree to not use separation as a threat to control and dominate with. Either way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and you mentioned that the last day, what I call like a spiritual partnership. You were talking about a critical partner. Is that what you mentioned the last day?
Critical lover.
Critical lover. So that's that relationship. So the objective that I think from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that with this critical lover that it's about uplifting each other to their true potential and going through those challenging times together and calling each other out on that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Victor?
Yeah, sure. A critical lover is not just limited to romantic partnership.
Yeah.
It's anyone in your life who's willing to tell you the truth for the sake of your upliftment and thusly the upliftment of the world. Right. So my upliftment too, in the roundabout sense, that if I uplift you, the world becomes a better place. So that's my selfish motive, like you talked about last time, Joe.
Yeah.
So, but all of it, why wouldn't I want to live in a better world? That's just natural and it's authentic to say that, right? So a critical lover can be, that's the role that I hope that people would come to me for, is to be their critical lover in the realm of health.
Yeah.
Not always the case, but at least we give it an attempt. So the critical lover is vitally important, and it can be multiple people, but there's probably going to be one or two that are the ones, that are agreeing not to separate from you because you've got some stuff, and you're agreeing not to separate from them because they're calling you out on your stuff.
Right on.
And they call you out, and then it's going to happen. We all have an
Right.
autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system is going to register threat.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? You're going to, and whatever, then run or fight or flight or freeze or collapse on the ground or cry or engage your defensive manipulation tactic number 1, 2 through 9.
Right.
A, B,
Right.
C, and D. And it's going to happen. You're going to have that impulse. So expect it. Take a deep breath and start to inhibit your sympathetic nervous system response with the breath and then your capacity to listen. Then you inhibit the sympathetic nervous system. That strengthens those neural pathways, and you develop a stronger relationship with your critical lover. And those are the types of relationships that are going to engage the Peruse and Prakriti inside.
Yeah. Right. And Joe, did you have something to say?
That was a good explanation.
Yes, very good. Very good. So those conversations are very hard, but it has to start with an agreement between
Yes.
both partners.
Thank you.
If we're talking about coming together in with a critical lover, be it that's a romantic partner or someone that you trust, it has to start with a conversation and an agreement that you're going to call each other on your stuff. And that you're not, like you said, Joe, you're not going to run, you're not going to use that against the person. But my goodness, that's challenging.
Oh,
in the heat
man.
of the moment.
That's so.
And there's, in the heat of the moment especially, there's that thing where it's like, well, why do you get to decide what's true?
Right.
Yeah, how do I know that you're not stuck in your stuff,
Right.
calling me out on my stuff?
Or manipulating or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all the mud. And then you can bring in another person who's another critical lover for the both of you. And, but let's be honest, a lot of times we know.
Yeah, in your heart to heart.
Yeah, and if you get it right 90% of the time, congratulations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you were talking, Joe, about having those heated conversations are necessary in order to bring it up, because as someone in the past, I would not have liked confrontation. And so I would have, and just when you were talking a moment ago there in relationships, I may have I don't want to argue about this.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the confrontation. Right. I didn't grow up with that. And it just never felt good to me, but I understand the importance of it now. So in the past, I would have no, I'm not doing this, and shut down the conversation. But from what you're saying there is, my partner then would have felt, oh, I have to now diminish myself or not be able to express myself fully in order for me not to freak out or run or whatever.
Yeah, you're controlling.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have a lot of intensity, why are you judging that as wrong?
Yeah.
Well, because you're not comfortable with it.
Right.
That's cool. I can relate to that. But even an intense guy like me, I am a very intense guy, so I can speak from firsthand, but 90% of the time I'm like reading books, or I'm pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? A few percentage of the time that I get excited? And am I just getting intense because I'm really excited about the subject? Wonder if it's good. This is going to lead to, okay, everybody get ready. Wonder if it's going to lead to great love making.
Right.
Wonder if we're going to have this really intense conversation. And at first you feel a little, okay, because I come home really intense, right?
Yeah.
But we merge.
Right.
It's like, you know what? I totally agree with you on that subject. I'm like, oh, good, because blah. And you're like, yeah, da-da-da. And then we agree, okay, we're going to start spending 10% of our income, because you and I make so much money, to this charity, because it's what I came home to talk about, right? We got excited about it.
Right.
We want this cause. This is our cause, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to dedicate 10. And we merge, and we're feeling good about each other. And I grab you in my arms and kiss you and all that stuff. And I'm full of intensity and passion. Tell me what's wrong.
Right. It's nice when it ends up like that, but when it ends up in the opposite way of when the male raises their voice and there may be fear, female is fearful. Yeah. And then, there can be a fear there. And if there's...
But why, honey? Can we talk about the fear? Can we stop and talk about the fear? Can you say to me, you know what? When you're that voice, that intense voice of yours, that triggers fear. It's like, all right, let's talk about it.
Right.
Let's talk about it, and let's talk about it with some intensity. Right. Because it's got to change.
Right.
Stuff has to change. Me too. Remember, I keep saying, I've got bad habits. I'm raising both hands. So, you got to change me too, but you got to change too. And so that's going to take intensity. That's going to take focus. That's going to take passion. That's going to take all those things in life, right? Change doesn't come easy.
Right. So letting that friction surface, have the heated, passionate conversation, digest, maybe go away and digest, and then come back and have a conversation about it?
Yeah.
Is that what you would...
If you feel like my intensity is getting off the rails where I'm going into anger, redirect me to my fear. Joe, what are you afraid of right now?
Right.
I hear your anger. That's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah.
We're not going to create. We're not going to create an anger.
Yeah.
So what is your fear that's underlying your anger? Let's talk about that.
Right.
And I'll talk about my fears.
Yeah.
And then when we get all that resolved and we're each other's support system, we're going to have a great relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to have a lot of passion and intensity. And that's good.
Yeah.
Because we live in a world where passion and intensity is going to be called out. If we think we're going to go passive into the night here and solve the social problems we have coming at us, you better really think again.
Right.
You are going to need to be on the streets, doing the thing. Peacefully, everybody.
Yes,
peacefully.
yeah.
But on the streets.
But it's like the fires of change.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
is the 60s again, but even worse. I mean, more intense. The issues are bigger. The issues are survival.
Yeah.
It isn't women's rights anymore, which I was all about now. Yeah. But this is about survival now.
Yeah.
So we're going to have, come on, intensity and courage and passion, all those wonderful words are going to be everyday stuff for us. You better get used to living in it.
Right.
Because when a police officer arrests you, they don't do it nicely. They want to hurt you.
Yeah, talk about seeing the dominant male form there and what we've seen being exposed on all these videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a male like me suffers from that fear just like you do. I'm just as afraid of the police brutality and what they're doing to young black men. And I'm witnessing all that and I have my own fears just like you do. None of us are free of that.
Yeah.
A white upper class male is still walking around scared to death of what's going to happen to us next if we voice our truth into the world. So there's no need for separation between the sexes. We have to come together to solve problems. We have to. And it's the woman who carries the intuition the best because she's more in touch with the right brain.
Do you think that the male is receptive to that?
Yeah, some men.
Some men.
Yeah, but again, take away the fear of separation from me and I'll be way more receptive. If you tell me you think I'm terribly handsome because I'm receptive to your intuition, I'm going to be a lot more receptive to your intuition.
I hear you. Yeah.
So, but who tells us that?
Right.
Nobody tells us.
I don't think anyone's ever told me that.
Right. No woman's ever said that to me.
Yeah, that's usually not the opening gambit.
Yeah.
Of course, we have these open conversations. We have this friction, this heated, passionate arguments. That will bring it closer together because you're both opening up more, you're both disclosing your vulnerabilities, and that makes you closer. And the more that a woman then encourages the male and saying, when you do this, when you are vulnerable with me, when you're emotional, I feel more of a connection to you. That, like you said, is going to give confidence to the male then to be more expressive. And
I think by emotion you mean heartfelt.
Yes, yeah.
And Kundalini Yoga, just to give you that, is the heart is the neutral mind. It's a position of non-judgment. It's not emotional. The emotions is the navel point. So what I'm looking for is a woman who's not judging me when I bring home intensity, courage, cause. Dr. King said, if you don't have a cause you're willing to die for, you're already dead. I grew up with hearing that. Right. So I certainly programmed into me, I'm not going to be a man like that. I'm going to have causes that I'm willing to die for. Well, that's a pretty intense statement. So I'm going to have to back it up with some intensity. You're going to call bullshit on me. So the neutral mind is what we want. And that is the heart. The heart is compassion and empathy and understanding and the listening and all that. But not listening like for you just get to talk. Listening to hear what you really are asking for. And what am I asking for? Take me to my fear, not my anger.
Right.
Tell me. It's like, get off the anger, Joe.
Yeah.
Let's go to your fear. What are you scared of right now?
Right.
Come on. Right. Talk to me, brother. I'm your lover. I'm your best friend. I'm your sister.
Right. Right. And you've already made that agreement to sit there and hash it out.
We've agreed.
Yeah.
We've agreed. Vulnerability and trust.
Yeah.
That's it. We got to get there. We have got to get the vulnerability and trust with each other. And I cannot do that if I'm worried about you taking me to court.
Right.
Or something I say.
Right.
So if I say some stupid thing and it has sexual connotations and I end up in court because you say I tried to sexually something to you and I just said something stupid.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, Joe, stop with the stupid comments.
Right.
Instead, it's like you stay silent, and then when you go away from me, you turn me into the bad guy.
Yeah. So this politically correct culture.
Oh.
No, it's a recipe for disaster.
And it is a disaster.
Yeah, it is.
We're experiencing
disaster. It's not an experiment anymore.
Yeah.
It's just the reality.
We're in disaster town.
It's because it's shutting people down.
Shutting everybody down.
Yeah, and it makes the victim the victor.
Yes.
Which is not a good paradigm and not a powerful paradigm.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really critical to have these critical lovers in your life that you can have these conversations with in a safe, secure environment, knowing that there's going to be no backlash, but it's all about just helping each other is key.
That's it.
Right.
That's a great summary.
Yeah. So as we finish up here, guys, you were saying to meditate earlier, Joe, on what do I not want to merge with?
Yeah. So everything's choice. As adults, everything's choice, not as children. As adults, everything's a choice.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you say to me, no, I want to maintain a sense of separation between you and me because I'm a female and you're a male. Why? Why do you want to maintain that disconnection? Well, it's because there's some advantage in it for you. You're perceiving that there's an advantage for you to stay separate from me. You do not want that merger. And, there's words like freedom and things like that. I'm not kidding. But, those things get thrown out there, right? Because we don't want to merge because that feels like we're losing our autonomy, our individualization.
Yes.
But we are not. Individualization has nothing to do with merging with somebody. It has everything to do with living your own soul's purpose.
Right.
So I can't take that away from you. I don't care how intimate and close we get.
Yes.
You have your relationship to your divine self, no matter how close you are to me.
Right.
So it's not going to go away.
Right.
What are you afraid of?
But I think the cultural norm of a very individualistic society and, going out in this path by yourself, which is really harming us now, is we need community now. We need those.
Need a community.
Yeah. Yes. Always. Yes. And we need those people in our lives who are going to call us out, to help us to grow, get better, and help us to blossom and to bring our values into this world. And
it goes back to what you were saying earlier. If we don't do what we just talked about, we can cooperate rather than compete.
Yes.
I can share with you.
Yeah.
Rather than say, well, you got to get your own now.
Right.
I got it, so now you got to get it. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Why not share?
Yeah, absolutely, and there's no limited resources here.
No.
There's infinite.
It's infinite.
And like you said, my true nature is unique to me, and all it needs is the right environment in which to blossom.
And that's what we want. So back to the controlling, dominating male. That is the biggest of the crime right there.
Yeah.
What you just hit on. Because if I, by dominating you, take away your very unique expression in this world, a piece of the puzzle is forever lost. Right? And now I live in a world, like Victor was saying, I live in a world of an incomplete puzzle.
Yes.
So that's not good. That doesn't feel good.
Right.
So the last thing I want to do is take that away from you.
Yeah.
I should be doing everything I can to encourage you to bring your uniqueness forward into the world and put that piece of the puzzle in place. That's what we owe each other.
Right.
It's the completion of the polarity. And when Peruse and Prakruti merge, you get the experience of the oneness.
Yes.
So that's the aim of yoga.
Yes.
Yeah, so
the union.
Let's do that.
The union.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's give a little bit of things to think about. So moving away from these cultural norms with the goal to living a soul-driven life versus a life of fear and anxiety.
Yes, which is what we're living. Don't kid yourselves.
Right, we're living in fear and anxiety now.
Yes, we are. All of us. Me too.
Right. And our goal is to live a soul-driven life, to bring our uniqueness into the world, because that's why we were manifest in this time and space.
Yep. Meaning versus happiness. Let's have meaningful lives versus happy lives.
Right. So what would your advice be to a listener who goes, where do I start with this? Joe, you were talking about meditating on...
Yes. I think you have to do the internal work first.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to go inside and find out what it is you're holding up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off that and say, do not do that alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Support.
You need to seek critical lovers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it might not be like, oh, you step out your door day one and your critical lover pops into your lap, right?
Yeah.
It might be a little bit of a journey, but that's the hero's journey. So.
Right. So, and again, a reminder, the critical lover could be anybody. It could be a friend, a sister, family, partner, health provider. Could be anybody.
And they're not perfect.
Yes.
If you're looking for the perfect person to bounce your stuff off of,
doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Right.
They are a mirror. They're a mirror for you.
Okay.
They don't have to be perfect.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think what's important about that as I'm reflecting on my own journey towards having critical lovers in my life is we all, I'm raising my hand too, we all tend to go to people we know subconsciously are going to give us the answer we want to hear.
Agree with
So
us.
I think on that journey of finding critical lovers, you got to keep your ears open because it may not be the person you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
It may not be the buddy you're thinking of in your head right now.
Right.
But go talk to them anyways. But keep your ears open while you do.
Yeah, sometimes it's that person you have a little bit of friction with. They're like, you know what, you talk too much. or call you out exactly on what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know that you can, like you said earlier, Victor, it resonates. What they're saying resonates with you on a deep level, whether you like it or not.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. There is a resonance. That's a good word for it.
Yeah. So I think, my advice would be really to start understanding your true self. As we know, that's the journey with Ayurveda and yoga. First of all, getting to know your unique constitution and delving into your own story and into your own healing journey. Before then you can start going out into the world. I think there's a lot to learn.
Wow.
A lot to learn in your own journey and looking at it with curiosity and self-compassion. And it can be an amazing, insightful journey. And it's a lifelong journey.
Lifelong.
So in our next episode, I definitely want to continue the conversation about the soul-driven life versus a life of fear and anxiety. I know, Joe, you want to talk about that.
James
Definitely.
Hollis. Read James Hollis' books. He's all about it.
Well, Joe has read a lot of his books.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back and Joe's going to talk a lot about that. Yeah. But guys, this is great. I love having these conversations. Before we finish up, let's do where can people find out more about you?
Numerology,
offers.
Baby.
Yeah, because
they're pouring in.
There are some great offers here. So go right ahead, Victor.
Okay, so you can find us at www.iiayurveda.com. And you can email us or call us. And I offer anyone who wants to talk to me about their health a 15-minute talk on what your Prakriti is, your constitution. And Joe also has an offer.
Yeah, I'll do your numerology for you. So it's yogic numerology. There's 5 numbers, not just the one. And so birthday, month, year, and that's it. I don't need time and I don't need place. That's astrology. So all I need is those 3 things. Just your birthday, basically.
Fabulous. Yeah. Great. So I will put all those links in the show notes and we'll get the email where you can contact Victor and Joe. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to share? iiayurveda.com is the website to check out.
Yeah, we're becoming very shortly a California State Certified Ayurveda School and NAMA Certified. Yes, very exciting. And we're going to be training Ayurvedic professionals starting January 2022. And we also teach a very in-depth Ayurveda in the vagus nerve course, which really gets into a lot of this stuff and is great for personal challenge and development. It goes really deep. So that's a very unique course.
Yeah,
that starts January 2022.
You talk a lot about the masculine and feminine there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really getting into your nervous system. Like we said in the last episode, that's where the work is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the mud. That's the digging of the ditches and the labor.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the Ayurvedic professional practitioner course and the vagus nerve course starting January 2022.
That's right.
And you can find out all about it on iiayurveda.com.
You got it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you.
Victor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Until next time, when we're coming back to talk about a soul-driven life versus a life of fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
Can't wait till our next conversation.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Take care, everybody.
Ciao.
There you go.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Joe and Victor, and please check out the show notes for all those links and their amazing offers for free Prakriti reading and a free numerology reading. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them so we can spread this information. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to know more about my online consultations, cleanses, and educational programs, just click on the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.